This happened last year on Halloween night, October 31st, 2024. I'm 26 years old now, but at the time I was 25 and working as a night shift nurse at Memorial Hospital in Portland, Maine. I'm writing this down because I need people to understand what happened, and maybe someone else has experienced something similar. I still have nightmares about that night. For context, I live in a small duplex on the east side of town. It's one of those older buildings from the 1950s that got split into two separate units. I rent the left side. An elderly woman named Mrs. Patterson lives on the right. We share a front porch that has two separate doors. Mine painted blue, hers painted red. It's important you understand this layout for what comes next. That Halloween fell on a Thursday, and I had requested the night off specifically because I wanted to hand out candy to trick-or-treaters. I usually work 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. shifts, so I rarely get to participate in holidays. My girlfriend Emma was supposed to come over around 6 p.m. to help me hand out candy, but she texted me around 5:30 saying her car broke down and she'd be late. No big deal, I thought. I could handle it myself. I set everything up around 6 p.m. I bought about 10 bags of candy from Costco, the big mixed variety packs with Reese's, Kit Kats, and Twix. I also put up some decorations. Orange string lights on the porch, a few plastic pumpkins, and one of those motion-activated witches that cackles when someone walks by. Mrs. Patterson wasn't home. She'd mentioned earlier that week she was spending Halloween with her daughter in New Hampshire. The first trick-or-treaters started arriving around 6:45 p.m. Everything was completely normal. I saw all the classic costumes. Superheroes, princesses, ghosts made from bed sheets, and even a kid dressed as a toilet paper roll, which made me laugh. Parents stood on the sidewalk taking photos while their kids ran up to collect candy. Everyone was polite and excited. By 8:30 p.m., the flow of kids had slowed considerably. Most families with younger children had already gone home. I was sitting on my porch scrolling through TikTok when a group of teenagers came by. They were probably 16 or 17, wearing those scream masks and hoodies. They didn't say trick or treat, just held out pillowcases. I dropped candy in their bags, and they walked away without saying thanks. Around 9:15 p.m., Emma finally showed up. Her dad had helped fix her car, and she brought pizza from this place we both love. We ate on the couch and watched Halloween Town on Disney Plus, while waiting to see if any more kids would come by. By 10 p.m., the street was dead silent. No kids, no cars, nothing. We decided to call it a night. That's when things started getting weird. At 10:47 p.m., I remember the exact time because I checked my phone. There was a knock on my door. Not the doorbell, but actual knocking. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. I got up from the couch and looked through the peephole. Standing on my porch was a kid, maybe 10 or 11 years old, wearing a rabbit mask. One of those full-head latex masks that covers your entire face. He was wearing a red hoodie and jeans, and he was holding a pillowcase. "There's still one more," I said to Emma, grabbing the candy bowl. When I opened the door, the kid didn't say anything. He just stood there, completely still, holding out the pillowcase. The motion sensor which went off, cackling loudly, which made me jump a little. Little late for trick-or-treating, huh? I said, dropping a handful of candy into his bag. He still didn't respond. Just stood there with that creepy rabbit mask staring at me. After a few seconds of awkward silence, he turned around and walked off the porch into the darkness. I couldn't see where he went because the street light on our block had been out for weeks. "That was weird," Emma said from behind me. "Yeah, super weird," I agreed, closing the door. We went back to watching the movie, but about 20 minutes later, there was another knock. Same pattern, 3 slow knocks. I looked through the peephole again. It was the same kid in the rabbit mask, standing in the exact same position as before, holding out the pillowcase. "Seriously?" I muttered. I opened the door. "Hey, buddy, I already gave you candy, remember?" He didn't respond, just stood there. "You can't come back for more. That's not how it works." I tried to sound friendly, but firm. Still nothing. He just tilted his head to the side, like he was confused or studying me. Emma came up behind me. "Just give him more candy, so he'll leave." I grabbed a few pieces and dropped them in his bag. He stood there for another 5 seconds, then turned and walked away again, disappearing into the dark. Okay, that's officially creepy, Emma said. I'm turning off the porch light. She flicked the switch and we locked the door. We tried to get back into the movie, but I couldn't shake the uncomfortable feeling I had. Something about the way that kid moved, or didn't move, felt wrong. At 11:23 p.m., 3 knocks again. My stomach dropped. Emma and I looked at each other. Don't answer it, she whispered. I crept over to the peephole and looked out. The rabbit-masked kid was back, but this time he wasn't alone. There were 2 more figures with him, both wearing masks. One was a pig mask, the other was a clown mask. All 3 of them were completely still, standing on my porch like statues. There's 3 of them now, I whispered to Emma. Call the police, she said, pulling out her phone. Before she could dial, all 3 of them turned their heads toward the door at the exact same time, like they knew I was watching to the peephole. Then they started knocking. Not on my door, on Mrs. Patterson's door. That's when I realized something that made my blood run cold. Mrs. Patterson's door was red. Mine was blue. They'd been knocking on my door, the blue door, twice already. Now they were knocking on the red door. They're at the wrong door, I said. The knocking got louder and more aggressive. Bang, 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 bang. Emma had 911 on the phone. Yes, we need police at 47 Maple Street, Unit A. There are 3 people in masks banging on our door, and we don't know who they are. The dispatcher said officers were on their way. Then the banging stopped. Complete silence. I looked through the peephole again. They were gone. Just like that, vanished. Where did they go? Emma asked, her voice shaking. I don't know. They just disappeared. We waited by the door, too scared to move. About 5 minutes later, we heard sirens. 2 police cars pulled up in front of the house. We opened the door, and 2 officers came onto the porch. You called about people in masks? One of them asked. He was an older officer with gray hair, maybe in his 50s. Yes, I said. There were 3 of them. They kept knocking on our door, and then started banging on my neighbor's door really aggressively. The officers looked around with their flashlights. We don't see anyone now. Did they say anything to you? No, they didn't say a single word. The other officer, a younger woman, checked around the side of the house and came back. No signs of anyone. Could have been teenagers playing pranks. It's Halloween. It didn't feel like a prank, Emma said. They were banging so hard, I thought they were going to break the door. The officers took our information and said they'd patrol the area for the next hour to make sure everything was okay. They left around midnight. Emma and I barely slept that night. Every sound made us jump. The next morning, I went outside to check if there was any damage to Mrs. Patterson's door. That's when I saw it. On the red door, right at eye level, someone had carved 3 words into the wood with something sharp. We know you. My hands started shaking. I took a photo with my phone and immediately called the police back. They came out again and took a report. They said it was vandalism and possibly harassment, and they'd increased patrols in the area. But here's the part that still haunts me. When Mrs. Patterson came home 2 days later, I told her what happened. She went pale when I showed her the photo of the carving on her door. Did they knock on your door first? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Yeah, twice. Then they switched to yours. She sat down on the porch steps like her legs gave out. This happened to me 5 years ago. Same night, Halloween, 3 people in masks kept knocking on my door. I didn't answer. They carved those exact same words. What? Did you report it? Yes, but the police never found who did it. I had the door replaced. That's why it's painted red now. The new door. The old one was blue. I felt sick, so they'd been here before. Not just here, she said, pulling out her phone. She showed me a Facebook post from a community group. It was from someone who lived 3 blocks away. The post was from Halloween 2022. Did anyone else have people in animal masks knocking on their door last night? 3 of them kept coming back over and over. Carved, we know you on my door. Called police, but they said it was probably kids. Anyone know anything about this? There were 14 comments. As I scrolled through them, my stomach turned. Multiple people in our neighborhood had experienced the same thing over the past several years. Always on Halloween, always 3 people in masks. Always the same message carved on the door if they didn't answer. But here's what made it worse. One commenter said their Ring camera caught footage of the 3 masked figures. They said when they reviewed the footage the next day, the figures moved in impossible ways. Too smooth, too synchronized, like they weren't human. Another person said they did answer the door on the 3rd knock. They said the figures just stood there in silence for a full minute. Then one of them whispered, "Wrong house," and they all left. That person moved out of the neighborhood 2 weeks later. I reported all of this to the police. They opened an investigation, but told me there wasn't much they could do without identifying the suspects. They increased patrols on Halloween going forward and warned the neighborhood through a community Facebook group. Emma and I are still together, but she refuses to come to my place on Halloween anymore. Mrs. Patterson installed security cameras all around the property. I bought a Ring doorbell and a baseball bat that I keep by the front door. It's October 2025 now as I'm writing this. Halloween is 2 weeks away. I've already decided I'm not staying home this year. I'm going to my parents' house in Vermont and staying there until November 1st. Mrs. Patterson is doing the same, going to her daughter's place again. Because here's what I can't stop thinking about. They said "wrong house" to that one person who answered, which means they were looking for the right house. And every year, they come back, knocking on doors, trying to find it. I don't know what happens if they find the right house. I don't know what they want or who, or what they are, but I do know one thing for certain. I'm never answering my door on Halloween night again. And if you live in an older neighborhood and you hear 3 slow knocks on your door late on Halloween night, especially if it happens more than once, do not answer it. Don't even look through the peephole. Just call the police, lock your doors, and wait, because if they carve those 3 words on your door, "We know you," it means they're not done with you yet, and they'll be back next year. They always come back.